Hello, I'm Paul Carroll and welcome to this video tutorial on Photoshop actions and batch processing. Actions can be used to apply the same commands to hundreds of separate images, taking the time-consuming and mind-numbing repetitiveness of these tasks away. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create an action that applies a copyright watermark logo to your images. I'll then go on to show you how to automate the process of running that action across multiple images using what's known as a droplet. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to close my final image down here so we can start. Now the first thing that you need to do is make sure that you have your actions palette up on the screen. You can see I've got mine down in the bottom left hand corner here. If yours isn't viewable, then to activate it you go up to the window on the toolbar and then click Actions, or you can press Alt and F9. With the Actions palette activated, click on the outward facing arrow which brings up the Actions menu and select New Action from the list. Give your new action a name. I'm going to call mine Watermark, and then click Record. From now on, everything that you do in Photoshop will be recorded as a step in your Photoshop action. So make sure you've run through the process of applying a watermark at least once so that it can be as smooth as possible when you're recording your action. The first step of this action is an open command. So open any image that you want to apply a watermark into Photoshop. Next, I want to resize my image, which will make it a sensible size for either emailing to a client, putting on a CD, or perhaps uploading to the web. So to do this, go up to the Image menu and down to Image Size. Change the resolution to 72 dpi, which is screen resolution, making sure that the Resample Image box is checked at the bottom. Then, under Pixel Dimensions, if you change this drop-down menu here to %, we can enter a percentage of 25 and click OK. The image is now a sensible size for me to apply my watermark to. I'll just scale it up to 100% and maximise it so it fills the screen. The next step of my action is to apply the copyright symbol. So to do this, select the horizontal text tool from your tools bin. There you are, you can see it, so I'll click there. And you want to click in the very centre of your image. Now to help you do this, you can use the rulers. If your rulers are not activated, activate them by going up to the View menu and checking Rulers. Or you could press Ctrl and R. With the rulers activated, you can judge roughly where you need to be in the very centre of the image. So I'll go for about 10. There we are, that looks good. Now with your text tool highlighted, you need to select your font and your font size and colour. I'm going to go for Arial, 48 point and red. Now we need to type the copyright symbol. If you're using an Apple Mac, this is done simply by holding down the Alt key and pressing G. If you're using a PC with a standard keyboard, you can also do this by holding down the Alt key and then pressing 0169. If, however, you're on a laptop like myself, it's a little bit more complicated. What we need to do is go down to the Start menu and from the All Programs list, go up to Accessories and then down to System Tools. In System Tools, you can see there, second down on the list is Character Map. So click Character Map and that brings up all of our symbols. You can see there our copyright symbol, so I'll click that and click Select and Copy. I can now close down the character mapping as I've copied the copyright symbol to the computer's memory. Next thing I need to do is back in Photoshop, if I go up to Edit and Paste, it pastes my copyright symbol onto the image. Now you can just simply type your name or your business name and put the date after it. So Paul Carroll 2008. With our text typed, all we need to do now is drop the opacity of our text layer. You can see that we've created a separate text layer here. Up in the top left hand corner of our screen is my layers palette. So to reduce the opacity, you can just type whatever opacity you want in the opacity box there. I'm going to go for 25%. And you can see when I press enter, that's made it nice and soft, just applying a subtle watermark logo. With the opacity reduced and our text layer completed, I can now flatten the image because I don't need to save my proof with multiple layers. So from the outward facing arrow in the layers palette, go down the menu to flatten image. The next step of this action is a save as command. So to do this, we go up to the File menu and down to Save As. Now it's really important that we do a save as here and not a save, as a save would overwrite our high resolution image, which we're going to need later for printing. So we just do a save as. Select somewhere on your computer to save it, and I'm going to call this one watermark, and click save. It's a JPEG, so we have to select what quality of file that we need. 12 maximum will be fine, so I'm just going to click OK there. The final step then of this action is to close our saved image down. This is important because we'll need to do this later when doing the batch processing. So we'll just close the image down. And that's it, our action is complete. So on the actions palette, if we go down to stop, which is the icon in the bottom left hand corner of the actions palette, click on there, that's stopped and saved our action. Now we move on to creating the droplet. This is a small executable file which will automatically run our action over multiple images. So to record a droplet, go up to the File menu, down to Automate, and across to Create Droplet. And it will bring up this droplet dialog box. We need to complete all of these sections of the Create Droplet dialog box, so I'll start from the top. The first one is the Choose menu. So click on Choose, and we need to choose a place to save our droplet to. I recommend saving them to your desktop because that's a handy place to use them later. Give the droplet a name. Again, I'm going to call mine Watermark, and click Save. The next menu that we need to complete is the Play menu. You can see here that the first drop down list that we've got is the Set menu, and we've got 3 options under there. We want to leave it as default actions. This Set menu relates to the groups of actions that you have within the actions palette. So when you're creating your own actions, you can create your own group. For example, I've done one called DP actions. But for the time being, we're just going to leave it as default actions because that is where our watermark action was saved. Next, it's important to check the override action open commands. And when you do so, you'll see that a little dialog box comes up telling you that when this option is on, source files will be opened from the source folder only by steps in the action. These are no open steps, files will not be opened, but that's fine because we do have an open step in our action, so click OK. Finally, we need to tell the droplet where to save our final images to and what name to give them. So to do that, under the Destination menu, click Folder and Choose, and select a folder on your computer to save the images to. I've created a new folder on the desktop, so if I go to my desktop, I've created a folder called Droplet, so I'm going to click that one and click OK. I also need to check the Override Action Save As commands, and again a dialog box brings up saying when the option is on, files will be saved to the destination folder only by Save As steps in the action. If there are no Save or Save As steps, the files will not be saved, and that's okay because again we did have a Save As step in our action. We now just need to tell the droplet what naming convention to use when it saves our images. At the moment it's set up for document name plus extension, which gives an example of myfile.gif. I'm going to change the document name. You can type in anything here, so I'm just going to put in wedding. I'm then going to input a 4-digit serial number so we can have thousands of images processed by this droplet. And finally we'll put the extension on the end. So just using the drop down menus with the arrows there, you can select extension. And you can see the example will be wedding, 4-digit serial number, and then the extension. A starting serial number of 1 is fine. So with all those menus completed, we can just go up and click OK, and that will create the droplet on our desktop. So now if I minimize Photoshop and have a look at our desktop, you can see that there's our droplet created called Watermark. I also have my folder called Droplet, which I created earlier, and that's where my saved images are going to end up. And I also have a folder called Wedding, and this contains the images that I want to drop into the droplet. There we are, there's only 5 images in my folder. Obviously you'll have hundreds when you've been on a shoot, but if I go down and highlight my 5 images, I can then drag them simply onto the watermark, and it automatically goes off and applies my action to all of those images. It will then save the 5 files into my folder called Droplet. There we are, we can have a look at them there. And you can see that the naming convention's been applied. They're all called wedding with a serial number afterwards. They're all GIFs. And if we open one up just into into preview, it's gone into Photoshop. There you can see that my watermark has been applied. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Make sure you give actions and droplets a go using my technique. It really is a great time-saving way of completing all those mundane Photoshop tasks, which will free up your time so you can get on with something a little bit more creative. Okay, see you next time.